Like it's this, these same themes come up over and over and over and over again. You know, we're the only culture that didn't believe that there were aliens. Every other culture was like, yeah, these people came from this star system over there. Yeah, they told us they came from this star system over there. Yeah, they told us they came from this star system over there. But it's only us that are just like, nah, that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't that crazy? Does that not trip you out a little bit? I was like, oh shit, I heard these. What if you found out that like 1 out of every 10 black people could fly? Think about it. I'm not. What if you found out that 1 out of 10 black people has the gift and they can freaking levitate and shit?
It might be a clue as to why we're targeted.
Bro, I think that's closer to the truth than this bullshit that they've been telling us. The atom's wrong. We haven't been to the moon. WMDs. COVID came from a fucking a market. Like, at what point do we just throw all that bullshit information out the window? For real. Like, at what point do we say, you know what? I'm not going to believe anything that you have to say.
Ever experienced that in observing any of the other solar systems, because what's large happens on the small, and what happens on the small happens on the large, because it all has to fit together. You can't have imaginary stories of, okay, this happens in the quantum space, but it's prevented from happening in the macro space.
Can I
yes, please.
Enforce this concept? This quantum jump,
mind you, this NASA physicist is going back and forth. Him and Terrence are playing ping pong, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Like him and Terrence are playing some high quality ping pong with science right now. So we can't just skate past that. I just want to make sure that we're mentioning that. But shout out to Solo Dolo. What's up, bro?
Then solar orbit, say Mercury suddenly due to external force drift to different orbits. It's totally different concept. In quantum mechanics, everything's fixed, and this jump cannot be continuous through space and time. It's not space-time, okay? Through space and time. It cannot say, somehow, from this one to other one, you cannot go through the space. You cannot have a time difference. It happens instantaneously. How that happens? It is you have to, the matter has to, like Earth, has to entirely disappear, become a virtual pair, and then instantly appear on the other.
It has to vaporize and become a different pressure condition so that it can now fit into the next pressure condition. Solid things fit in solid spaces and tight high pressure systems. Vacuous things fit in low pressure conditions. And in order for the Earth or for anything, an electron, it has to change its condition, and that happens. It's called condensation. Everything happens in the condensation of one pressure condition compared to the next pressure condition, and that condensation flips to the next space. It remains consistent. That's the crystallization, and that's what they've been lacking, having the platonic solids, utilizing them as a base, this Cartesian space that doesn't fit the universe, how it behaves. They're now getting blocks to where they can make something fit linearly, but when we're talking about space, and space is curvature, you can't do a straight line out here because everything is going to orbit this way. The reason the 3-body problem was a big problem, because they could never dictate how the orbits were going to behave. They could do it with 2 bodies, but anytime you added a 3rd body, it went into chaos. Well, us being able to solve the 3-body problem, which I can't wait till you get a chance to look at and go through, but that's why I was asking you guys, please put it into your AI and see what the AI says, because the AI says, all it's lacking now is being verified that we've actually solved the problem. But what that allows us to do now is being able to move in space, because we can predict where these orbits are going to go. It's no longer a chaos-based world, because now the world is based on harmony. It can be predicted, and they've made money from the loss and from the lack of understanding. And we are able to solve the Heisenberg problem. We're able to manipulate the Schrodinger equation, the Dirac equation. All of those papers we've done from the Howard comma having the right geometry. They missed the geometry. That's what they've been missing this entire time, and the fundamentals. Like, what's your thoughts on the universe? Is it finite or is it infinite, or is it infinite?
The man's a genius. Black excellence. Protect Terrence Howard at all costs. Don't let these people make us think he's crazy. Because that's what they tried to do. They tried to Kanye him behind this.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so and again, I'm only, like I said, I'm just a regular freaking dude. Just a regular dude. I'm just a nerd sometimes, and I'm curious about shit. That's it. I don't know any.
So now let's talk about he said the boundary. I said that the universe of three-dimensional space is infinite and the time is infinite. However, I did not mention, say, hey, the medium, the light carrying electromagnetic, the medium has to be infinite. So for, let's say, for each solar system, we may have a concentrated medium has a boundary. So either traveling to somewhere, coming back, you will see that one, right?
Yes.
Does not exclude. Entire universe does not have a vacuum space without even medium. So what happens to that location? You will never see light.
No.
However, whenever we can see light from the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, since we can see the light, so we know there is a field with the medium throughout our visible universe.
I want to share something. One of the papers.
Did you get that? Since we can see the light, it has to move through something.
Yeah.
So it's like, it can't be a vacuum, because they'll always say space is a vacuum. We've heard that a lot, right? But what he's saying is space can't be an actual vacuum, because if it were a vacuum, you wouldn't see any light at all.
Gotcha.
There would be nothing for the light to move get to you. There would be nothing, which I find to be pretty darn interesting also.
That I sent over to you guys. This was the abstract, and it was the necessity of a finite universe, a wave-based mathematical framework. This is what.
Which one is this?
I might mess around and be a fucking super fan.
This is the necessity of a finite universe.
Rob, do you have
right
that?
there?
I do. Okay.
Right there. Let me read it. It says the abstract is, this paper rigorously demonstrates why the universe must be a finite system by employing a wave-based multiplication paradigm, the energy conservation principle, and the fundamental mathematical relation of 1 × 1 = 2. We present mathematical proofs illustrating how finite systems inherently how infinite systems inherently violate energy conservation. Furthermore, we derive equations from wave mechanics to show that the wave reflections and conjugations naturally confine energy within a closed harmonic structure, linking the universe to a hypothetical or hypothesis to observable cosmic wave fronts, basically proving ultimately that an infinite universe is mathematically impossible because of conservation of energy laws. Because if you have an infinite universe, then there's no such thing of having a finite amount of energy in a particular area. When you get to the small confined spaces, you end up with problems when you have an infinite universe. And that's one of the things I think has been holding people back, but you just said it correctly. The medium is finite. The potential reactions are infinite reactions, but the medium, the space we're in, is a finite space, I would think.
I mean, he's a genius.
He is not a stupid man.
No.
At all.
No. Yeah. Dude's a genius.
Then we can get a look at those papers.
We can. They're on his website. Let's see. What is here? Give me a second and I'm gonna find it for you.
Oh.
He has a whole, because what he's essentially doing now is, man, look, brother, people lose their lives over what he's trying to do. He's giving us the keys to the castle. If we fundamentally understand what's going on at a molecular level, I'm not joking, with like a smelting area to like heat up some metal and maybe a couple of tubes and some pressure valves and some barrels and some chemicals, I don't know that there's much we couldn't do. Meaning like generating power. I mean, all the basic things that you would need for life. I think this planet has everything we need right here, like right here, and within our reach. And once you kind of like get your brain wrapped around, I don't necessarily need this beaker, or I don't necessarily need this like test tube exactly, or I don't exactly need a blowtorch per se. I think that and again, I mean, look, we're hamsters in a hamster wheel, right? Like, Broken Blade, are we gonna go out back and try to invent our own power plant? I mean, maybe you and I would, but most people wouldn't, right? Most people wouldn't. But I think that's why these people are lying to us the way they are, bro. That's why I think they're lying about this. I genuinely think, bro, it was like X-Men down here. I really truly think that at one point it was full-blown X-Men and Star Wars all wrapped up into one. I really think that. I really truly think that. I think that there was giants rolling around. There was like grays running around. I think that there was all sorts of things running around. There was oracles. There was whatever. Bro, all these themes are all the same all over the world. Where do you go to the oracle? At the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Every single culture had where if there was in a mountainous area, the freaking the whatchamacallit was up on the top of the hill. Like, it's just these same themes come up over and over and over and over again. We're the only culture that didn't believe that there were aliens. Every other culture was like, yeah, these people came from this star system over there. Yeah, they told us they came from this star system over there. Yeah, they told us they came from this star system over there. But it's only us that are just like, nah, that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't that crazy? Does that not trip you out a little bit? I'm telling you, Broken Blade, look, Broken Blade. In the Emerald Tablets, they talk about IVF. They're doing they talk about the process. I mixed this with that, didn't work out. I mixed this with that, didn't work out. Tried this with that, didn't work out. Got frustrated, tried something else. Tried this with that, didn't with this. You know what? I'm gonna carry it this time. I'm gonna put the embryo inside of me and I'm gonna carry it to term. Boom, Adam, the first man, Adamu. But it's in stone. Like, they wrote the story in stone. So 6,000-year-old tablets, they're talking about doing IVF and doing DNA shit. We didn't even know what that was until recently. Or did we?
Yeah. Yeah, again, malignants are...
Bro, all these signs, right? Our, what's the medical sign with with the snakes?
Yeah.
Right? That sign is on these thousands of year old tablets. Like, this is old shit. Like, we're acting like what we're doing is new. This is old stuff. I'm thinking that whatever we have is they've let some of this filter through, but I think there's a whole bunch of it, bro, that there's like, oh shit, I heard these. What if you found out that like 1 out of every 10 black people could fly? Think about it. I'm not. What if you found out that 1 out of 10 black people has the gift and they can freaking levitate and shit?
It might be a clue as to why we're targeted.
Bro, I think that's closer to the truth than this bullshit that they've been telling us. The atom's wrong. We haven't been to the moon. WMDs. COVID came from a fucking a market. Like, at what point do we just throw all that bullshit information out the window? For real. Like, at what point do we say, you know what? I'm not going to believe anything that you have to say. Anything. Like, why would I? Like, everything that you've said is untrue or a manipulation.
Facts.
Meant to keep me dumb, meant to keep me, right? Like, bro, think about this for a second. Like, what
keep us in survival mode.
Like, you know what? My third eye opens up and then you wake up and you got fucking superpowers tomorrow. What if you already got the superpowers? You just ain't turned them on yet. And going right back into these psionics and these kids, what was happening how were they getting them in X-Men? How are they getting these kids to find their powers? Stress, torture. Put them in a torturous position or whatever, and then all of a sudden you find out what their power is. Because when they're stressed, right? Magneto, when he found out, right, you're taking his family from him and they were trying to pull him away, and he freaking snatched that fence.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you so think about that. So these very same kind of stories, they were talking about these psionics and shit. They're doing the same thing to children now. Bro, there's 300, almost 400,000 children, immigrant children in the United States that came without parents. I'm just saying. Who's doing the trafficking is what I'm saying, is what I'm asking. Who's doing the trafficking? If there's 300 to 400,000 unaccompanied minors in this country right now that have come over the last 4 years, what the fuck are they here for? They ain't digging ditches. They're not delivering mail. Like, I don't know. I don't have a bunch of kids just running around. You know what I'm saying? Like, where the hell are these kids going? What are they doing? Where are their parents? So I really think, bro, I really think that there is some shenanigans going on. I really think there's some shenanigans going on. I really think that we are superhuman. I think it's X-Men in this bitch. I think that, you know, it might be too far for me or too far for you. We might be too old by now, but you know, maybe we got some, you know, X-Files. What did they say? Simeon, do you remember what X-Files and what they did with the children? Nah, what did they? I don't remember that part. What did they do with the children? Same thing? Same shit, right? Bro, this theme keeps coming up over and over and over again. Like, it's find the gifted children, snatch the gifted children. Take them off somewhere, train them up to be like super freaking humans somewhere. It's the same shit over and over and over again. So I'm like, yo, at what point do we start to think these freaking parables and these myths and all this stuff that you told me was fake seems a hell of a lot more real now than the shit that you told me? Bro, you read all, it's crazy. Bro, you read these emerald tablets, like the book of Enoch, right? You read these books and these gods, little g gods, right? These gods, if you really read the stories, bro, they're regular people. It reads like regular people. Like, it doesn't read like, it reads like royalty, but it reads like regular people royalty, like me or you. And we're like brothers, and like dad was like promised me he was going to give me Earth, but then you did something cool. So he gave Earth to you and I got jealous. So then he gives you Earth and then gave me the moon or gave me Mars. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck that. I'm supposed to be down there. And then so the brothers fight. And then they get after, and one of the brothers wants humanity to grow. The other brother couldn't be concerned. One was benevolent. The other was malevolent. Right? Like, but it was like regular. There was a time where the gods, little g gods, were walking around amongst us. Which again makes sense why when shit disappeared and all of a sudden it popped up and suddenly we knew how to farm and this, that, and the other thing. Like, I mean, science has never been able to explain that. Right? Like the pyramids. Like, ain't nobody been able to explain that shit. Bro,
and it's got to the point that like even people now thinking the ancient Egyptians were looking at that like, yo, what the hell is this?
I think they inherited too. I think they inherited it. I think they inherited most of it. I believe they inherited most of it. I don't know if it was working in the same capacity that it was when it first was created, but I am pretty sure that they inherited. They popped up and they're like, well, it's a big ass building with them. I mean, I don't know what it's supposed to do, but if we finagle it over here and do a little something over here, we might be able to get it to do something. You know, we were told we could do greater works in many religious texts. I'm telling you, bro, they don't want us to know. They do not want us to know. We are superhuman. We really are superhuman. And they've been trying to hide it. Anyway, look, I'm not going to go. I'll probably talk about this tomorrow. We're going to talk about tariffs tomorrow. I was going to bring that up. I was going to do it today, but it's just not looking like it's going to work. But can you, so Broken Blade, all they talked about all day for the last 2 or 3 days is that Diddy tried to sleep with this dude. They said all that stuff we just listened to. And that was probably maybe 20 minutes worth of the hour that we just covered here, maybe 30 minutes worth. And all that these people were talking about was Diddy and how Diddy made a pass at him. That's it. That's the only part that made it out. Not that the atom was wrong. Not that science was wrong. Not that this motherfucker solved the problem. Bro, he solved a 300-year-old issue. The 3-body issue is a problem, bro. Part of the reason why we can't travel in space the way we want to is because they can't calculate the 3-body thing. Because they'll get out there and get hit by something. Like if you can't calculate where stuff's going to be.
There's a lot of debris floating around.
There's a lot of debris. And all you got to do is get hit by one good thing and it'll take you completely out. So you have to know. So that's part of the dangerousness of flying. Bro, even when those that came down, when they found Earth, you know what he had to go through? There's an asteroid belt out there. And they talk about it. He had to go, they called it the something bracelets. But they talk about him having to go through this asteroid belt to get to here, which if you were coming from where they say they were to come to Earth, you would have to go through an asteroid belt. Well, part of the reason why they never go with the asteroid belt because it's dangerous, because you might get hit with something. And in the story, he had to like pretty much blast his way through. Like it wasn't just like flying he had to like shoot stuff and blow stuff up to get through. Like it wasn't an easy thing to do. But again, isn't that kind of a crazy thing to add into a parable that you're knocking into stone? You know, like putting into clay, you know, to last forever. That just seems like an interesting factoid to put in there if it didn't mean anything. And then sure enough, there's a goddamn asteroid belt out there that we can't fly through. Right? Like I'm starting to like put all this shit together. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. This is crazy. It was X-Men out here, bro. I'm dead serious. It was full blown X-Men. Magneto shit. Goliath. Giants. Of course. Of course. Why wouldn't there be? Why wouldn't there be? Of course. You know, and then this whole radiation thing has got me rocked.
Yeah.
That has me all messed up. I don't know. There's not anybody Shout out to, what did Sheridan say? He said the great Egyptian achievement they never speak about on our forts down the Nile. We can't make a pyramid, but we have tech to leave Earth. It's about, man, I'm telling you, bro, I don't even think we have the tech to leave Earth for real. We can get into lower orbit. We can't get out of lower orbit. Bro, we cannot get out of this radiation belt. We have not. They say that, okay, you're telling me that 50 fucking years ago, 60 years ago, our NASA, the current NASA that exists right now, sent multiple ships to the moon for real, and back for real. And then when you ask one of them, how'd you get through the radiation belt? They get quiet. There is no answer. What did you have, like special material on your suit? Was there a special material that they put on the ship? How did you do that? What happened? Don't get me started on the fuel. So, because essentially this 3-stage rocket, and I went back and looked at this, a 3-stage rocket, one to get us up into the atmosphere, another to get us through kind of to a second spot, and then the 3rd stage is supposed to get us all the way to the moon, loop around a couple of times, and come all the way back. Bro, bullshit.
Yeah, nah, bro.
Bullshit. And then out of Elon Musk's own mouth, he's like, yeah, we'll have to refuel like 16 times. That's what Elon says. We'll have to refuel 16 times. So you're telling me that 60 years ago, they had one rocket with 3 stages that made it all the way to the moon and back without refueling. And right now, currently, Elon Musk can't get a rocket through this radiation, let alone all the way to the moon and back, without refilling 16 times. Remember I was telling you, bro, like when you start to understand material science, things start to look a little bit different to you, right? You start understanding heat, you understand materials and how materials change. You know, what is, why would I use aluminum instead of steel? Why would I use this kind of steel versus this kind of steel? Why would I use titanium instead of this? Why would I use Inconel instead of that? Why would I use Inconel here but carbon fiber over there? Right? Like what heats am I? Okay, cool. This is strong enough to deal with the pressure, but can it deal with the heat? Right? Okay, if I just wrap it with ceramics, is that enough? Is gold enough? Is silver enough? What do I, you know what I'm saying? When you start to understand the thing, okay, this ship is going to have to be able to get all the way up to 3,000 degrees and stay together and not boil the people that are on the inside. Like, these are complicated problems.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, so the idea that it's just like willy-nilly 50, 60 years ago, you're telling me that Buzz Aldrin and them just jumped on his rocket and shot on up there, looped around the moon a few times, and then came on back. Again, fuck all the dumb stuff. Like, let's not even talk about all the look, you can't convince me you had enough fuel on board to get over there and get back. And I still haven't heard anybody tell me about how the hell you would make it through this alleged radiation belt. That once I start looking into it, they're like, yeah, this shit's unpassable. I'm like, well, wait a second. I thought we passed it a couple of times.
And that too is just the normal arguments everybody's had. Watch the footage. Details always bug me, like, is lunar winds a thing? Because if not, why is there a wind blowing on the American flag with these planes?
It should be in a vacuum. It should be dead. It shouldn't be doing anything. And you know what they said? The moon is supposed to be 250 degrees in the sun.
That flag should have burnt the fuck up.
If it was material, I mean, maybe 250. Yeah, probably. Yeah. And you know what else? So, see, nobody wants to talk about it, but the size of the Earth should have been a lot larger. From the moon, what the moon would have looked like to the Earth, it would have been flip-flopped. So the Earth would have looked fucking huge. It would have looked huge. Like the idea that you wouldn't have taken a selfie with like,
yeah, they're just massive in the sky, like fuck.
Bro,
Yeah.
all of the photos and the video, there are no stars. They're in space, but there are no stars. When they asked him what did the stars look like, Buzz Aldrin answered, "I don't remember."
A once in a lifetime opportunity to do what literally no other human being has done before. Literally among the stars, you forget. Right.
I just assumed and I never looked. I never thought about it. I never questioned it. I just never did. That just seems like a too crazy of a thing not to question, or too crazy of a thing to question, or too crazy of a thing to lie about.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And like, wait a second, you lied about going all the way to the moon, like, and not only that, Broken Blade, but hold on to your britches. I believe that they are putting pressure and are putting pressure against all these other countries. If you were China or Russia and you were an astronaut and you want to be the first one to the moon, but you can't figure out how to get through this goddamn radiation, and you're trying, and the Americans do it on the first try, allegedly, ain't you gonna be like, congratulations, but how the fuck did you do blah 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 blah?
Yeah.
Right? And then they destroyed a whole bunch of like all of the material, like all the stuff. Like they destroyed everything. Like, why would you do that? Like, they destroyed all the data. There is no flight data for the Apollo 11 flight.
Yes.
Where are the suits that they used? Hey, that radiation blocking suit, like, where is that? We need to run that back so we can get up there again. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. It's pretty wild. Anyway. I think we got to start looking at this world like way different. Way different. Bro, I think the science is more attainable. I don't think things are nearly as complicated as they've tried to make things sound. I think that the way you manipulate materials is a lot simpler than we really think. I think that stuff is really at our fingertips if we want it, for real.